Hi guys, so I thought I would wait a week before I did any reviews really on the day itself. It's a week after the Lanzarote Ironman. Haven't really done much this week apart from just reflect on how I did, the performance, what I was expecting from the day. And I think it takes a little while after the event really to digest things. Certainly 2 or 3 days. So deliberately I decided to take just the following week off from doing any videos, just to think, gather my thoughts, and then think about what I was going to do next. So this video I'm just going to summarise really what happened on the day. So I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, got the final last bits and pieces ready for the day, and then we had the bus from Club La Santa over to Porto del Carmen, which left at 4:30. Relatively quiet on the bus, to be honest. You know, it was. I know a lot of people were perhaps anxious and tired, so it was quite a weird, surreal environment. And then as soon as we arrived, I think things just kind of kicked in. Went into autopilot mode, straight down. I met up the guys with Swim Lanzarote. I went and got changed into my wetsuit and dropped off the last bits and pieces, the water bottles in the transition areas, and then headed down onto the beach. And then did a warm-up, 400-metre warm-up, which, despite actually seeming quite a long warm-up, in comparison to what others were doing at the time. Other people were just jumping in, doing a couple of strokes, a couple of burpees on the beach I saw, and that kind of thing. It seemed to be quite comprehensive and long in comparison. In actual fact, I think it settled the nerves a lot. You know, jumping into the water when it's dark, first thing in the morning, pre-big event, I think can take a lot out of you. The shock factor. What you're doing early on is removing that element of shock. So that was brilliant, and obviously the environment and the energy was absolutely buzzing at the time, and that's one of the things I said I was looking forward to, was the energy and immersing myself in that, and I did fully. So I found my place where I wanted to start. I headed for the mid part of the pack. I was expecting to do about a 1:0 or a 1:15 perhaps. So I worked my way into the middle of the group with another athlete and found the people that were really starting with that time. And it could be quite intimidating. I mean, I was relatively calm. I meditated on the bus on the way over, so I released any of that kind of anxiety or tension. But planting yourself in the pack of, or in the middle of 2,000 athletes, can be intimidating for some, I think. For me, it was just, I looked at it from a different angle and just enjoyed it. And then they have the pre-speech. You can see people physically shaking and eager to get going. And I guess it's quite emotional for most, in the fact that you've invested thousands of hours of time, in some cases tens of thousands of pounds in equipment and kit. You could be there alone, as I wasn't with my family, but I was with some good friends and some people that I'd met over there, which was really refreshing. And then the gun goes off, and it's kind of, you're in it then. And I talk a lot in my coaching practice about reaching that level of subconscious confidence where you're acting without thinking, and I guess that's really what happened for me throughout the whole day. I knew what I needed to do, and I just kind of did it. So hit the water. It was my first ever triathlon, as you will know if you've been following with me for any one time, and it was the first time I'd been swimming with anywhere near that amount of people. It was like a fight in a bath with 10 people. I mean, it was immense. There was elbows, there were punches, there were all sorts. Fortunately, I kept myself, where possible, in as much clean water as I can, and found people to draft off. And what I did was, taking the advice of Paul at Swim Lanzarote, is I just kept sighting every now and then, making sure that I was on path, but worked my way up the pack, saw the next person, drafted in behind them or alongside them real close, until I felt that actually that pace was comfortable, and I worked myself up. And that was pretty good on the way out. And then there became the gridlock at one of the turning buoys, where everyone just funneled into that main central place. And that was actually really interesting for me, because I'm not the smallest of individuals, and I kind of not bullied my way through, but I really made myself dominant in that area, and I just kept going. And I think saw a couple of people that hesitated, and where they hesitated they just got swam over, and I felt for them to a certain degree, because I was one of the people swimming over them. And I think it's one of those things, is you can either hesitate and literally that's when you start getting hammered, or you just go with the plan and get through it. And that's the attitude that I had, was that, you know, it was only an hour and 20 minutes or so of my life, and that was the main focus. So managed to get around the first lot and then headed back in. It was 2 loops of the track or the circuit, so headed back up onto the beach. Nice, really steady jog. No sprints were happening for me. I porpoised into the beach, which was brilliant, because I'd learned that the day before. Got round back in the sea, at which point the pack tends to have divided up a lot, so you've got a lot more room to manoeuvre apart from those turning points. And yeah, that was it really on the swim. The way back in, I opened it up a little bit. I felt comfortable at the pace I was going. I didn't want to exert myself. From day one I said that the swim in fact was a warm-up, and I stuck by that plan, stuck by that learning, just on the basis that it was my first time and I didn't want to go all out and not be in a position to, you know, bike or run. So the focus of the day was to finish, and the primary swim was really to get round comfortably without feeling any fatigue going into the bike. So I headed back up into T1 and realised at that stage that I'd lost my Garmin. Now, had I not have been mentally as strong, I think this would have had quite an impact on me. Now, my whole training has been based around training in heart rate zones and going off statistics, so going off my Garmin. So then heading into a bike and a run without any data to work with could have thrown the whole event. But I acted in the present. I was there to finish, and that's really what I needed to focus on. So I didn't allow it to bother me. It was a long day, and losing the Garmin, as I said, could have been a real detriment. But for me, it was just one of those things that happens, and just time to get on. So I gave it a couple of thoughts, perhaps a little aggravated for about 5 seconds, but then got over it particularly quickly. Headed into T2, was helped get changed, wore my tri shorts underneath my wetsuit, and put my tri top on separately, which was dry. Everything I had was all set out. If you watch some of my other videos, you will know what actually went into the transition bags. Got covered in suntan cream lotion, which was brilliant, by some of the support staff. Support staff at Lanzarote Ironman or the volunteers were unbelievable. They really made the day. So we've got a lot of gratitude given to them. Still, I'm incredibly grateful for everyone that really supported and everyone that turned up. Headed out in T1 onto the bike. Did that in about 8 minutes. Oh, the swim I did in 1 hour and 7 minutes, so 67 minutes, and that was comfortable. I think I could probably have shaved a few more minutes off that. So that was a massive surprise in comparison to what I was expecting on the 120-ish mark, to come in at 107, and still having plenty in the tank that could have been given in the swim, so I was happy with that. So I headed out on the bike, and again, just went on internal feel really. It's a long day. I saw a lot of guys and girls heading off at immense speed, only for me to overtake them later in the course. So we headed out. For me, the main focus was sticking to my every 20 minutes a sip of my pre-mixed gels, my baby bottles that I had on the back. I didn't know what 20 minutes were because I had no timing device, so again I just went off internal feel. Occasionally I would see the signs at the kilometre mark, so 20, 40, 60, 80 kilometres, and I would gauge roughly on the speed of which I was doing and the time. Occasionally I'd speak to someone and ask what the time we'd been going for, and just to really gauge whether I needed to up my nutrition or reduce it. There wasn't a point during the cycle or the ride of which I felt fatigued. In actual fact, I felt really good. I think I actually nailed my nutrition. I was really happy, but I had been training my gut, and as I've said in all of my videos previously, it's about educating your body and what it needs to do on the day. I went into one of the shops, cycling shops, the week before, and saw people having a look at new nutrition to consume on the day, which was like 2 days away. For me, that's ridiculous. You know, the gut is already under mass stress if you're coming from different climates, and to put it through that additional stressor on the day just doesn't make sense to me. So I think I nailed that. So we've got 22 kilometres ish in, and I got a flat. Now it's my first ever flat tyre. I was feeling pretty good. I'd found some people that were going at a pace of which I could probably have kept. So I pulled over and fixed my first flat on the rear ever, at the side of the road. Again, that was probably number 2 of a hurdle. I didn't allow it to affect me because, again, it's just one of those things. It's a long day, 20 odd kilometres in to a 180 kilometre ride. There's no point getting stressed about anything. So took a deep breath, dealt with it. Took me about 4 or 5 minutes, I reckon, to change the flat, and then I headed back off, of which just headed back off, and I took it incredibly easy. And there's a lesson here. The reason I took it very, very easy for the next section of the ride was the fact that I only had one spare inner tube, and I'd used that. So the inner tube was used, and then I headed, when I got to Club La Santa, the plan was to stop either at one of the bike stores there and beg for another inner tube, or to stop at my room at Club La Santa and pick up the spare that I had in my room, which I didn't need to do because Master Porti, one of the mechanic trucks, was at the side of the road helping someone else. I pulled in and asked them if they'd be kind enough to lend me a inner tube, of which they were. So big respect and thank you to Master Porti in Lanzarote. You really helped me out there. So put that on the bike and then headed off, and it's a long old slog. Lots of learnings on that route. I'd never climbed any mountains on a bike before. Most of my work had been done on the turbo trainer. Despite not feeling fatigued and my body feeling absolutely fine throughout it, and my main focus was on just keeping the RPMs high, there were times of which my training probably, and I say probably because you never know in hindsight, could have been adapted slightly better towards the amount of climbing that was involved. So I took it incredibly easy, kept the RPMs high throughout the whole ride. Got to the feed station, stopped there for about 2 minutes, just gathered my thoughts a little bit, replaced the baby bottle that I had on the back with a fresh gel bottle, at which point actually my timings have been pretty spot on with regards to the consumption. And then you got a long windy downhill, took it very, very easy on the downhills from this point, the 100 kilometre mark ish, 110, 120 kilometres. I took it very, very easy on the way back, backed off quite a lot. Now, the reason I backed off quite a lot was I didn't know what or how I was training, what heart rate zones I was training in, and I worked on the basis that if I could hold a conversation with someone as I'm speaking right now, then the marathon shouldn't be too much of an issue. So that was my attitude and my approach to it, reflecting inwardly, listening to my body, and then adapting my speed and my journey, the remaining journey, based on that feeling. So then we got into T2 again, nice and slow, no rush for me. It took about 8 minutes. On the transitions, both T1 and T2 took around about 8 minutes. I think I could probably shave 3 minutes easily off both of those times if I wanted to. Yeah. So refueled in T2 with my water bottle. Then took lots more sun cream on. Took the time to dry off my feet and put my socks on. Then just headed out. Now my run strategy was very much a survival strategy, but because I'd taken it particularly easy on the way back, I felt comfortable. It felt like I was just running a 10k. My plan for the day was to jog at no particular pace, but to feel comfortable, and to walk through aid stations. Now the aid stations were 2 to 3 tables lengths, and they offered water, bananas, fruits, energy drinks and energy gels. Now I consumed bananas and the oranges and water for the first 20k, and then on the second 20k, which were 2 loops, 5k out, 5k back, 5k out, 5k back, I decided to consume some Coca-Cola. Now, I don't know whether I needed that, but it tasted nice. So whatever effect it had on the body, the positive or negative, wasn't actually so much of an issue for me, because I think I could have sustained at the pace that I was going and picked it up a little bit more. My body wasn't aching whatsoever. I had no muscle fatigue. Mentally I was strong. Now it was about finding a comfortable pace and just settling into it. Nothing to prove but to finish. And the last 10k I upped the pace slightly, was having conversations with people on the run, and then for the last 5k I opened it out a little bit more, to the point where I was my heart rate and certainly my breath had increased. So that's it. Running back in the last 5k is unbelievable. The support of everybody that was there was magnificent. You know, the whole journey ultimately comes down to that funneling into the finish line, where you hear the crowd and the people cheering you on. Yeah, it's an experience that I would never forget. Hearing the tannoy calling out, "You are an Ironman," to the people just yards in front of you is phenomenal, and again an amazing experience for them. And again, it just pushes you that little bit further. There's a couple of pictures of me kind of running in, and it looks like that I've barely taken a stroll. I actually look comfortable. Even a couple of the other people that were 5k ahead and we were passing said that it looked like I was probably a little bit too comfortable on the run. And reflecting back now, it was, but the fear I had, or the concern I had was over pushing things too early and not finishing. But I have the experience now to know what my body can take. I know what it's like to do that kind of distance without any data. So next time, obviously I can play a slightly different strategy in my approach towards things. So that's it. The day was amazing. It was an amazing finale to 100 Days to Ironman, and I can only thank, I'm going to do a separate video and thank all of the people that have helped me, but really thank you to everybody that turned up on the day, from the volunteers to the bike mechanics, Master Porte, to Kenneth Gask, who brought the Ironman to Lanzarote 25 years ago, where I was as a child watching it 25 years ago on the sidelines, seeing the first one. All of the volunteers, all of the marshals, the police force of Lanzarote that took the time and effort to smile, congratulate people going past. I know that some police forces perhaps wouldn't be as generous and as warming and welcoming to the police force of Lanzarote and of Spain. You did your country absolute justice. To all the officials that turned up, welcomed in, and then to the professionals, the pros that stayed around and stuck around and helped everybody else in. I don't know many sports that are like that. You know, many sport professionals, as soon as their time's up or they finish, they're off home. The pros I found were, incredible, honest and real people. So that's it for the summary of the day. I think I've covered everything. It was, as I said, an amazing experience, one that I would welcome anybody to do. Certainly there was no disappointment anywhere with regards to what happened. Some brilliant learnings, personal learnings and professional learnings took place for me on that journey. Yeah, that's it. So thanks for tuning in. Please remember to subscribe using the link below to see what I'm going to be up to next. But for now, peace out and be safe.